there's a lot to cover. And so I'd like to start with how COVID has affected your contracts and your clients in the immediate term.
Challenge number one, how to deal with health and safety issues that no one had dealt with before. General contractors usually responsible for health and safety issues on the site. And that makes sense when you're dealing with people falling off of buildings, making sure they have fall safe, or how they are using their tools. But when you're talking about COVID-19 and a virus that top medical doctors and scientists are still figuring out, it sort of puts this burden on contractors, and they weren't equipped to deal with it. They didn't know more than the public knew. So we had this town hall and people started sharing ideas, and I started collecting information. They were very open and willing to share things like staggering shifts or not carpooling to work together, having people come to the site separately, different ways of arranging for hand sanitization. People are talking about, well, you need hot water and soap. Well, when you're working on a high rise that doesn't have plumbing, what are they supposed to do? So, trying to think a little more creatively to help people that are deemed an essential business keep working and work safely. We've just put together, at least on our site, a resource that has everything at once, all the associations, what they're saying about health and safety, what the government's saying. So we are trying to find ways to make it easier for our clients to sort of get everything in one place. Yeah, another thing is notice. In the construction world, delays are commonplace, but delays for a pandemic are not. And how do you deal with those delays? And, where do they fall in a contract? From the beginning, helping people draft notices or respond to them was really important. So construction contracts normally have tight timelines for giving notice if you're delayed or behind schedule. If you don't give that notice, the courts, at least to date, have been pretty strict about what those contract provisions say. So clients are trying to figure out health and safety. They're trying to make sure they're safe on site. They're trying to figure out if they should be working or closing their site or whatever. We're trying to be a friendly reminder and say, hey, don't forget, you also, on top of all the things you need to do, and you're working at home, and your kids are there, and blah, 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 you got to send your notices. You have to make sure you comply with the contract, see if a delay provision applies. There's a term that's being used a lot. There's force majeure clauses, and those deal with sort of unforeseen circumstances, whether a contractor can get more time or possibly more time and money as a result of one of those clauses is something you sort of have to look at contract by contract. Some deal with pandemics, others don't, but this pandemic might fall into one of those exceptions. If in doubt, we've been telling people, give the notice now. You don't want to lose out on a potential claim because you missed the easiest part, which is giving the notice. So there's been a lot of legislation changes, a lot of orders from the government that need to be complied with. So first, all construction was essential. That was easy. Everyone doing all construction could keep working if they chose to do so. Then, the list was limited as to what was essential. So certain residential projects, but not all residential projects. Certain provincial critical infrastructure. So examples were given like healthcare and transit, but there might be other types of work that would fall under essential workplaces. Repair and maintenance. I got a question the other day, my roof was leaking. Can the roofer fix the roof, or should they just put a tarp on the roof? I don't want to be offside of the legislation because, maybe I could have just put a tarp up, or am I allowed to fix the hole in the roof? It's challenging. There's not a right or wrong necessarily answer for some of these questions. Luckily the government has given a 1-800 hotline for people to ask questions. That's been a helpful backup for some of our clients as well. And then another issue was the courts froze and suspended limitation periods. And that means when you have to start a lawsuit, which fine, maybe that isn't that important. But what it might have done is frozen the period to preserve your lien or register a lien on title. And again, someone would say, so, okay, I have more time to lien. Great. Okay. But what people were forgetting was there was an unintended consequence. And that was that liens, if the lien period doesn't expire, then an owner can't pay out holdback monies that are being held in trust because they don't know if there are any liens on title. We're in the cycle of people are working, they're deemed essential work, and they can't get paid because this lien period is frozen. So luckily the government had the construction industry got together. I know construction lawyers and also industry wrote to the government and said, think this was an oversight. The good news is that the government made a change, and as of April 16th, the lien period, people have to register liens, and this means holdback can slow. Because of this delay, it's going to be a month later. I think the whole industry is going to change a little bit after this. Not only contracts, there's a lot of electronic software that people can use to keep track of change orders. They don't need to all be in a binder in someone's office. So I think the way contracts are managed will change. And I know there's been, as in the legal world, a lot of hesitation to doing it. But now I think we're going to all be forced to do it, because the only way that we can check up on what's happening on site without everyone physically being there or touching the binder or looking at it. And so we're going to be more prepared. I think force majeure clauses are going to become more robust in some of the bigger P3 projects. How you deal with something like a pandemic, I don't think it is always addressed in a lot of forms of contracts. So I think people are going to have broader terms for dealing with unforeseen circumstances. And the people that agree to pay and give people more time are going to change their contracts, and they won't pay for it. Contractors are going to make sure that they can get more time and maybe compensation. So I expect, whoever is affected by it, they'll want to make changes. And I expect people to be using technology in a different way. I think it's going to make things better for our clients. It's going to be more effective and efficient for everybody if we embrace technology a little bit. And we're kind of being forced to do it right now, all of us.
Right. Speaking of technology, I saw that you have just completed an e-trial.
Did a paperless trial in January and February, and it meant filing all of our materials electronically and having them hyperlinked. My trial was on this little USB here, and I could take it home with me, and we gave one to the court and the witnesses and everything. So it was really easy to share documents without physically being in the office. So to be able to do a hearing remotely, let's say you have an expert that doesn't live in the same city, and just to be able to have them participate by Zoom instead of someone incurring the cost of flying them to attend either court or mediation, will make something positive that will come out of this, is making it better access to justice and making lawyers more efficient. There's a lot of free webinars that we're doing to try to answer those hot topics, allow people to share information during those or ask questions, hear about the latest construction issue. We're also publishing a lot of articles. I'm working now on trying to provide services on a flat fee basis for people dealing with these issues. Like you have a lot of contracts to review on notice provisions. Instead of charging you X dollars an hour and you don't know how much it's going to cost, let's agree to a fixed price to avoid uncertainty and to also recognize the financial challenges that a lot of people are in right now. An initiative that two of my colleagues and I started, and that's called Community Over COVID. And it's just donations to the Daily Food Bank for those who are fortunate to still be working and also fortunate to not be spending $15 on lunch downtown to maybe donate. We're almost halfway to our $10,000 goal.
Okay, so working from home, how is that going? I understand you have a new roommate.
Yeah, I have a new office mate. He's my husband. He's lovely. Not as funny as my other work colleagues. And then I have two little helpers at home. I have two kids. One is 3 and one was 5 yesterday. Getting to see my kids. I went from that trial where I didn't see my kids pretty much for 2 months to now seeing them more often. Our 3-year-old's living his best life. I have to watch Captain Underpants one more time and lose my mind, but it keeps them quiet. They're probably watching it right now. So,
Oh, on that note, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Okay.
All right. Nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you. Okay. Bye.